It's that time of the week when former football and sports stars share their stories. It happens all right here, right now, on Thursday Night Tailgate. With your hosts, Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari. Guys, have some fun. Enjoy the guests. Take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe La Janusa. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everybody, and thank you for making Thursday Night Tailgate a part of your day. We are your home for interviews and conversations with legends from around the NFL. We're also the home of the NFL Alumni Association and the Gridiron Greats. Chris Mascaro and Bob Lazzari here to hopefully make your day a little more pleasant for the next couple of hours. TNT is brought to you tonight by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, Coastal Orthopedics, the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, and the French Lick Resort. On this very Merry Christmas edition of TNT, Bob and I are looking forward to sharing 5 great guests with you tonight. First up will be former Steelers offensive lineman John Malecki. At the bottom of the hour, we'll go through our 5-star picks of the week with former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins. Following Tony, former Jets defensive back Victor Green will be back with us. We'll kick off hour number 2 with a return visit from Pittsburgh sports TV and radio host and Thursday Night Tailgate Hall of Famer Paul Alexander. And then we'll round out the show with former Broncos and Falcons running back Gene Lang. So we've got some great friends coming home to Thursday Night Tailgate tonight. So sit back, relax, let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. But like we do here every week on Thursday Night Tailgate, we want to start out by sending out a big thank you to our military personnel listening in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Every week we want you to know how thankful we are for the things that you do to protect all of us in our way of life. For everyone else listening in on the station or the app of your choice, we certainly appreciate you so very much, and we hope you'll join us in thanking our brave men and women serving in our military. If you happen to see one of our servicemen or women out in your daily life, wherever you might be, in the grocery store, in the airport, in a restaurant, or just sort of out and about, please stop for a moment and tell them thank you. They are our true heroes. We also want to thank our veterans for your service and the sacrifices that you and your families have made for us over the years. Big thank you as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. We are so honored that Thursday Night Tailgate is a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. And veterans, please continue to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. What a great site with news and articles that are geared specifically for our veterans out there. We're sure you're going to find it both interesting and beneficial to you. Again, globalvoiceforveterans.org. TNT is sponsored tonight by Kyvan Foods. NFL star Reggie Kelly brings the authentic flavor of traditional Southern cooking to market with his Kyvan Foods products. Made from the finest ingredients, Kyvan Foods encourages you to appreciate the goodness, especially of the flavors from their salsas, their sauces, their apple butter, and all their fine products. Many of Kyvan's products are all natural, and the taste is absolutely unbeatable. Kyvan's items are terrific, for holiday parties. You got your family and your friends coming over for your holiday parties. Put that out on your spread. They make great gifts as well. Order online through Amazon or Kyvan's own website, Kyvan82.com, and Kyvan is spelled Kyvan. TNT is also sponsored by Dr. Peter Candelora and the great folks over at Coastal Orthopedics. Folks, if you're an athlete or a weekend warrior and you're dealing with injuries or discomfort, whether it's in your knees, your shoulders, your hips, any of your joints, please don't just live with it. Do what other athletes do to get relief, and that is contact Dr. Peter Candelora. He can get you back to enjoying life. For more information or to schedule a consultation, visit them online at athleteinjuries.com. Again, athleteinjuries.com. Baseball season, right? We all know that's over. But if you love the game, you really have to go check out the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. They were inducted into the TripAdvisor Certificate Excellence Hall of Fame. The museum is such a cool experience for everybody in your family because you get to walk their live production line and you get to see some of the 1.8 million bats that they make every year. They still have the Ripley's Believe It or Not exhibit. They've got some, bizarre baseball treasures there for you to check out. Don't miss the Bat Vault, where you can hold actual game-used bats from so many of the game's greatest legends. Guys like Hank Aaron and Ted Williams, my hero growing up, Willie Stargell. To find out more information about the museum and to book your visit, go to sluggermuseum.com. And also, please, be sure to check out our friends over at the French Lick Resort. You want to talk about a fantastic place to stay and play golf or simply relax and enjoy yourself. Well, it doesn't get any better than the French Lick Resort. What a fantastic setting they have. 2 championship golf courses on the property, right? One designed by Pete Dye, the other by Donald Ross. The Pete Dye designed course hosted last year's Senior PGA Championship, and not that long ago they hosted the LPGA Legends Championship as well. The Donald Ross designed course was the site of Walter Hagen's PGA Championship victory back in 1924. If it's getting too cold for you to play golf, well, guess what? They've got a great spa right there in the hotel, plus a casino on the property as well, my friends. To find out more information and to book your stay, go to FrenchLick.com. All right, tonight, Bob and I, we're going to jump right into the show tonight. And now back with us and making his 4th appearance on the Kyvan Foods guest line is John Malecki. Let me remind you about John's background. He's from Murraysville, Pennsylvania, which is about 25 minutes from my hometown of Penn Hills, both just outside the city of Pittsburgh. He was a member of the Franklin Regional High School State Championship team in 2005, playing both offensive and defensive lines. He stayed home, played his college ball at the University of Pittsburgh, where he was named to the Big East All-Academic team. After the 2008 season, he was named Pitt's Most Improved Offensive Player, and as a senior, he was named First Team All-Big East. He was an undrafted free agent, originally signed by the Tennessee Titans in 2010, and he spent some time in the NFL playing for the Browns, Bucks, Redskins, and Steelers before signing a futures contract with the Steelers in August in 2012 and was promoted to the active roster that October. 2013, he backed up David DeCastro. Now John makes some of the best, custom-made furniture you'll find anywhere on the planet. See it for yourself on his website, johnmalecki.com, and we're excited to have him back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, John, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hi, John.
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas. Always a pleasure.
John, I wanted to start out our time tonight with you by getting your thoughts on the Steelers-Bengals game, not only last Sunday, but the last several times they've played. When you look at the antics that Vontaze Burfict continues to do and the scrums he got into again with David DeCastro and Marcus Gilbert, I'm sort of beside myself that the league and Troy Vincent haven't kicked him out of the league or at least suspended him for the rest of this year and possibly into next year as well for all the things that he's done over the course of his career. Wanted to get your thoughts on Vontaze Burfict.
Well, I'm not one to criticize, the way someone plays. He gave himself the label that he unfortunately still holds, when he was in college, and lost himself a lot of money there. And I believe he's doing the same thing now. I like to see people play with passion and with heart and go out there and lay it all on the field. It's a fine line when you talk about playing dirty and not playing dirty. But obviously, Vontaze takes it and pushes that boundary a little bit. He is a very, very physical and a very good player, in my opinion. But I do think he tries to exert force and do things outside of the realm of the rule book a little bit too frequently. Criticizing the league is obviously going to do nothing because I think the league is doing a terrible job, especially this season, with officiating and with having, standard rules and penalties across the board for everyone. So everything from, quarterback hits and late hits on defenseless receivers and people holding the ball. But Vontaze is definitely someone who pushes all of that. And the Bengals themselves, they've always been a team that kind of shoots himself in the foot and they lose football games because of it. And as a Steelers fan, we find that stuff quite comical, and we just wait for it to happen, especially in games like this one last Sunday.
John, when you look back over all your years of playing on the offensive or defensive lines, whether it was in high school, college, in the NFL, what was the most over-the-top situation where you really felt like you needed to step in and retaliate, whether it was for yourself or one of your teammates?
Oh, man. We got into a pretty good scrum before we played West Virginia my senior year in Morgantown. We had the whole lined up at the middle of the field type thing going down. I think I remember Henry Hynoski getting into it with someone one of the Mountaineers and a lot of shoving and pushing and shoving back and forth. It was always hilarious to play down there. A couple of my best friends all went down there and stuff, so they'd be in the crowd, getting rowdy and screaming, and then I'd have be on the field, and they just, the morals down in Morgantown just kind of get thrown to the wind for, I guess, both sides. And where you walk out on the field, you're getting hit with batteries and quarters and stuff, and so we got into a little scrum before the game, and that was an instance where I looked at it and was like, wow, I cannot believe what's actually happening right now. So, and then you watch it now and it happened on TV. I mean, it just happened to them. They did the same thing before the Oklahoma game, I believe, and Oklahoma came out and stomped on them. So that was one of the situations where I was like, wow, if I retaliated here, I could potentially not be playing in this game. Besides that, though, I think I kept a pretty cool head for the most part. There was a few late hits here and there on a quarterback or running back or something. I blew a kid up pretty good when we played Rutgers one year. He came flying in on a pile to a bubble screen to one of our receivers, and I blew his helmet off and his chin strap and his earpiece and got flagged. And it was that was a memorable one. They sent a video to the team on what not to do. I got a personal letter saying I'd be ejected. I got another, for multiple games, I got another personal foul like that. So that was probably 2 times where I was like, you got to be kidding me.
It's always a pleasure to speak, John. Merry Christmas, and thanks for coming back on the show. And, John, I want to ask you about the Pittsburgh Alumni Network. I was looking at some of the alumni in the NFL, and there is close to, I counted about 200 people, 200 players from Pitt that probably passed through the NFL at one time, John, and it's just an amazing pipeline. And I was just wondering, guys that you played with at Pitt and or guys that played at Pitt, maybe not in your era, that you became close to over the years that you probably still keep in touch with.
Oh, man. We get together more often than I might even, think of. They do a really good job of having alumni functions for especially football athletes, at either football games. We have a golf outing every year, and we get together. You go and Sam Clancy, he was a basketball alumni at Pitt, but he runs the Alumni Foundation for athletes. So he does, a bunch of events where you'll go down and I'll be, having a drink and talking it up with anyone from, like Tyler Palco to you'll get Gerald Robinson and a lot of guys that I watched play as kids back in and involved in these events and stuff, and you shake hands with them, and it's a really good brotherhood. I'm super fortunate to be a part of it, and it's always nice to get at the golf outing. It's a lot of fun getting together and being able to compete and rouse each other up over something, as golf usually entails with most athletes. But yeah, there's a lot of those guys come back for events and stuff, which is great. I know a ton of dudes were in town this year for the Pitt-Penn State game, which was amazing, and a ton of fun. So hopefully we can keep the traditions and stuff like that rolling, as those bigger rivalry games start coming back on the schedule.
John, I wanted to ask you about the 2012 year you spent with the Steelers. Obviously, Roethlisberger's still going strong right now. I wanted to ask you about him specifically, John, as you were blocking for the guy both in games and in practice. And about Ben, we hear about his toughness, and he had a very good year that year, John, playing in 13 games. But is he as tough as we lead on, John, as far as just his overall toughness and leadership abilities?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, the resume stands for itself. We've watched him play with, broken foot and banged up. He had knee surgery this year, broken nose, elbow, hand, shoulder, whatever you name it. The guy's probably had an injury on it and had stepped up and played. I think his toughness is reflected on how he handles it, too. I mean, I don't really hear as much in the media as you might some other quarterbacks that are getting hit and that are taking hits, as we've been watching Ben do for, over a decade now. I think he's an extremely tough quarterback, and what's ironic is that as long as he's been playing, as a lot of us just expect it now. He gets hurt, most guys are done for the season. We're expecting a 2-3 week turnaround, in which he always, seems to magically be able to do for the city, for the fans, and for his team. So, yeah, Ben's probably the toughest quarterback I've been personally able to watch in my lifetime. I saw a little spot on ESPN this week. They're giving Eli a lot of credit for being super tough, and I think that's an testament to how trash his offensive line is, more than him as taking the brutal hits. But there are some dudes out there in the league that just get beat on, and I definitely think Ben's one of them.
I think we're still without Chris, so we'll keep going here, John. I mean, and as far as Chris had mentioned, your woodworking and everything that's going on now, and you know, I've always been so jealous of guys that are artistic and crafty and just so talented like yourself, John. Is this something that was self-taught by yourself? Give us some background how you got involved into the whole woodworking thing and how it still continues now. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah. So we were playing in Baltimore. I think the last year I was with the team, and I come back, and my roommate had some people over, and our coffee table got broken. I wanted to replace it. A friend of a friend had a something that I was really into. I wanted to kind of rebuild it myself, get the same look he had going. And so I did a little research. I grew up in a family where, you know, I was a big kid, and me and all my buddies were always free labor to all of our parents. So I was able to pick up some handy skills over that period of time. So I built the coffee table, came out nice, didn't break. I think it's still rocking and rolling at my dad's camp. And then, you know, more people started asking for stuff. Once football started fizzling out, I kind of, you know, picked up a job here and there to do some stuff for friends and family. And after that, I realized it was something that, well, one, I really much enjoyed, and two, it was going to be able to, you know, make some money doing it. So after I, you know, parted ways with my last business endeavor, I kind of jumped full force into it. It's been going fantastic. I've learned most of the things I'm doing on the internet and via people that I've met on social networks, where I'm able to bounce questions and get, you know, inside skills and ideas from them, and then I just push my stuff and try to get out there and hustle as much as possible.
So I would think, John, while you're in school or even back to as a youth, the value of an education, should pro football or football in general not pan out for a long time, I'm sure the academic part was stressed to you from a very young, early age.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I come from a school where academics are pushed super hard. I mean, we're looking at a lot of my peers and my best friends who are going to Ivy League schools, who are going to, you know, very high-level colleges all around the country, and they're performing athletics as well. So for me, I'm trying to compete with that on a personal level, and then as well as on the field. So academics were always something that we were competing over as kids, and then athletics as well. So getting to college, you know, it was something I always had in the forefront. I had a great mentor in Scott McKillop, who was a local kid who also took his schooling very seriously. So I, you know, followed his pathway. We were in business school, and I had a couple other good friends that were in business school as well, and took that route. So education was always at the forefront of my opportunity to go to school, and especially be able to go for free and have it paid for. So I knew that getting an education was the number one priority. So made sure I took care of that to the best of my abilities, and then was hoping that, you know, athletics would pan out for me, and they ended up doing that. And now I'm fortunate that I, you know, can look back and say I graduated on time with a degree that I wanted from a university I wanted to go to, and I was fortunate to play some football and play some football after that too. So I 100% believe in, you know, getting your education and making sure that you're taking care of your stuff in the classroom as well as on the field. And you learn a lot about time management and balancing, you know, the balancing act that goes into being a student athlete as well.
And, John, I know football players will always be football players at heart, but I'm sure you're aware, and the more we read and hear about concussions and some of the older players who are struggling are really struggling financially and health-wise, do you ever say to yourself, maybe it was a blessing that I might be out of football right now. I haven't hit 30 years old, but I probably will have my health for a long time?
I mean, knock on wood. Hopefully that's the case. You know, the one thing going on is the NFL and the PA are I guess there's litigation in the process of trying to get some money for the individuals who may be suffering from any, brain trauma or brain damage during their playing career. So at least the steps are in moving in the right direction for those that are unfortunately in the situations that you were just describing. It is really tough to watch some of the guys, especially, me personally, and see even these very young, former, very recently retired players having such, it's such drastic, physical ailments with their knees and joints and ligaments and things that just, don't usually happen to someone in their 30s.
Let's see if we have Chris back. Chris,
yeah.
Yeah,
goodness knows. It's been brutal while you guys were talking, trying to get this technology
we missed you, Chris.
I appreciate you, John.
Good thing we got to hear your phone ringing back in there. I was a little confused for a second. I thought I hit something.
Live radio, John.
Yeah, right? John, like I mentioned in your intro, now you do fabulous custom, furniture designs, which people can see on your website, johnmalecki.com. Talk about how business is going and what people can see when they go check out your site.
The business is going really well. I just finished up a entire restaurant build and remodel in Homestead, and that's on 8th Avenue. It's called Honest John's, if anyone in the local area wants to check it out. It came out beautifully. I was super excited. It was a big undertaking for myself, the first large-scale job I did. So I'm hoping to get some more stuff like that moving into 2017. I'm doing a little more remodeling work with some more than just dining and coffee tables, things like that, getting into a little more of the structural and the renovation aspect of the business, which is great, and then be able to put my twist on it gives me a little more, a little more opportunity to use my skill set, which is a ton of fun. But so if you go and check out my site, you're going to see a lot of new builds. I'm going to be putting out a lot more content. I have a YouTube channel now that's doing pretty good. I'll be building out a show, which is for 2017, where I'll be working with local veterans and doing some builds and just trying to teach some basic skill sets for woodworking and metalworking with those guys. And I work with a local foundation called It's About the Warrior, which does a fantastic job there. I know you guys are big veteran supporters as well, so make sure you check that out. And that's pretty much what's going on, what you'll see early in 2017.
Yeah, it's great stuff, and I've certainly checked out some of the videos on your site, and you got one that I think you've done pretty recently with putting together a coat rack and whatnot, and get to watch you kind of go through the process. It's fantastic. That's amazing stuff.
Yeah, the coat rack was kind of it was a spur of the moment kind of thing. I was fortunate there, and I'm glad you brought that up. I got to link up with Carhartt and One Warm Coat, and we're doing a donation. You can actually win that coat rack if you'd like by going to the Carhartt in Pittsburgh in Homestead and donating one of your gently used coats and get entered to win. You can take that home with you. So, and then that coat will go to a local person in need that's looking to stay warm this winter. So if you want to get behind a good cause and you're in Pittsburgh, make sure you check that out too. But yeah, I appreciate you checking out that video. It came out pretty cool, and we were all really pleased with it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic stuff, John. Kudos to you. John, before we let you go, let our listeners know how they can follow you, both online and over social media as well.
You can check me out at johnmalecki.com and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at John_Malecki.
John, thanks so much for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family, my friend. It's always an honor for us to have you as part of Thursday Night Tailgate.
Stay well,
Thank
John.
you, guys. Thank you, guys, very much, and the same to you. Have a wonderful holiday.
All right, thanks, John. You too.
Have a good one.
That is former Pitt and Pittsburgh Steelers offensive lineman John Malecki, and John's last name is spelled Malecki. So check him out online. Great stuff from him, Bob. You want to talk about a guy that got a lot out of his talents, and then is doing even greater now with his own business. Boy, that stuff that he's got on his site, absolutely fantastic. It's wonderful to watch.
It is, Chris, and we often ask guests of ours, are they ready for life after football? And he's still a very young man, and I asked him while you were when you were trying to get back in how he was prepared as far as intelligence-wise and college-wise, everything before possibly his football career came to an end, and he was stressed from a very early age of the importance of all that, and it's come to fruition. He's incredibly intelligent, and he's a very talented guy. I'm jealous of artistic talents, as you know, Chris, and he's an incredibly gifted guy. And again, check out that website and the YouTube channel.
Yep. All right, now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is our good friend and former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins to go through our 5-star picks of the week. Hey, Tony, how are you tonight, my friend?
Merry Christmas,
Doing
Tony.
fantastic. How you doing, Chris and Bob? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and yours, my friend. So, Tony, a lot of big moves being made in our pick'em standings each week now. Some moving up, others moving down. Last week, Bob surged ahead by going 4-1. I took a pretty large tumble by going 2-3, and Tony, you were 3-2. So, as a result of all of that, Bob is now our leader at 35-20-1. I am 33-22-1, and you are 32-23-1. So. We got a lot of work to do in a very short period of time now to catch Bob.
Wow. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. We
got to make it happen. Let's go. Let's get through our picks pretty quickly. We had some technical difficulties to start off the show, so we're running a little bit behind. So let's get through our games. And our first game tonight, Tony, is the one going on over my shoulder. The 10-4 Giants going to the 5-9 Eagles, and the Giants are a 2.5-point road favorite. The over/under 41.5. So, Tony, the Giants are a team that are very quietly now have the fourth best record in the league. Unfortunately for them, they're in the same division with the Cowboys. But, Tony, can the Giants keep the pressure on Dallas by getting a win tonight in Philly?
Absolutely. Real quick, Giants better team than Philly right now. No question about it. I'm not a big Giant fan because they always beat my Patriots in the Super Bowl, but I'm going with the Giants. That 2-point favorite it's way off. I think they'll beat them by at least 14. So we'll go 28-7 New York Giants.
28-7 Giants. All right, Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the same page with Tony. I don't see Philadelphia being able to stop guys like Beckham and Giants seem to just be picking it up. Our friend Rashad Jennings, Chris, is doing well. A couple of guys are just picking it up for them, and it seems to making Manning's job easier. I'm going to say Giants go in there, win 30-20.
30-20. All right. Well, guys, the Giants, particularly on defense, certainly playing a lot better every week. They held two of the better offenses in the Cowboys and the Lions to a total of 13 points, beating both of them over the last couple of weeks. And by the way, without JPP. So Giants defense now third in average points allowed per game, allowing a shade under 18 points. I like the Giants defense. They're going to have to make up some ground because they're losing 14-0 as we speak. But I like the Giants. I'm going to stick with who I picked, and I picked the Giants to win this game 28-23, which is how badly they beat the Eagles a few weeks back. So I take the Giants as well. Tony, our second game, the 9-5 Dolphins go to the 7-7 Bills. The Bills are a 3.5-point home favorite. The over/under is 41.5. So, Tony, a loss by the Dolphins and their playoff hopes, take a pretty big blow. A loss by the Bills, who already have a very slim chance, that sort of goes away, as does potentially the Rex Ryan era in Buffalo. So, who goes home Saturday unhappy?
God, I just can't see the Bills beating Miami for some reason, man, even though it's playing in Buffalo, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be cold up there. Miami's not used to that cold, but I just think Miami's just a better football team than Buffalo is right now. Is Tannehill playing this week? Is he still
I don't believe so. I believe Matt Moore gets the start again this week.
Yeah, well, Matt Moore played pretty good last week, man, or the week before when he came in to relieve Tannehill. So I got to go with Miami. Miami's got a good defensive attack. So I'm going with Miami winning. It's going to be close because it's going to be a little cold for the Miami boys. I say 24-21 Miami.
All right. Bob, what do you think?
Should be a good game. My goodness, I'm on the same page with Tony as far as a team from Miami going up to Buffalo in late December. I think, again, Buffalo's problems all year round. I think they get a little bit of a good taste by totally messing with Miami's playoff chances. I think they're not going to save Rex Ryan's job, but I think they're going to do enough to get by this game. I'm going to say Buffalo squeaks by. How about 24-20 Buffalo?
All right. And guys, I like Matt Moore. I like what he's doing, with the short amount of time that he's been in there. So I think he's doing a pretty good job for a guy who's been a journeyman backup, if you will. The funny thing about this, Rex Ryan to me is the Michael Myers from Halloween type of coach, right? Just when you think he's dead, he comes back. And you thought he was a goner earlier this season, then they won 4 in a row. And Buffalo fans are suddenly talking playoffs. Well, now they've lost 5 of their last 8, and he's back on the ejection seat. So I think this game comes down to the running attack, right? Can the Dolphins stop LaShawn McCoy, or can the Bills stop Jay Ajayi? Bills defense 27th against the run. The Dolphins are even worse. They're 30th. The game's in Buffalo. It's going to be rainy and 40 degrees. I think Rex Ryan lives on for another week. Sorry, Buffalo fans, but I'm taking the Bills as well, Bob. I like the Bills 27-20. Tony, our third game this week is the 7-7 Colts going to the 11-3 Raiders. The Raiders are a 3.5-point home favorite. The over/under is 53. Tony, can the Colts get themselves back into the AFC South mix by getting a huge road win here?
Okay, the only way I'm going to catch Bob is I got to go out on a limb. So I'm going out on a limb right now, and I'm picking the Colts to win. They're going to go out west to Oakland, and Oakland's home field. They're going to beat Oakland 27-21. Colts.
All right. Bold pick from Tony Collins. Bob, what do you think?
I got to give Tony. I got to give him credit. He's bold, man. I like that style. I got to pick Oakland. I just at home. They're a playoff team. I think they want to stay sharp. I think they just have too much offense for the Colts. So I'm going to go with Oakland. How about Oakland 31-17?
All right. And, guys, I've liked Oakland all season. I'm a big Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Khalil Mack fan, and the Colts are so inconsistent, right? That's what you think. 7-7, that indicates pretty inconsistent. They play well one week, poorly the next. They put up 34 last week, though, against a really good Vikings defense in Minnesota. Frank Gore had a nice game, 100 yards. Andrew Luck throws for 2 touchdowns. But the Colts defense against the pass is ranked 27th. The Raiders not much better, 25th. But, we know that the Raiders have won a lot of shootouts this season. I expect this to be another one. Khalil Mack is the X factor in this game. 9 quarterback hurries last week against San Diego, 10 sacks in his last 9 games. He's a monster. He's going to terrorize Andrew Luck all day. I'm taking the Raiders as well, Bob, 27-20. Tony, our next game is the 8-6 Ravens going to my 9-5 Steelers. The Steelers are a 5-point home favorite. Over/under is 44.5. Tony, can my boys give me a really wonderful Christmas present by beating the hated Ravens and securing the AFC North Division title for me?
Going out on another limb, I got to catch Bob. I'm taking the Ravens. I'm taking the Ravens upset the Steelers. I'm taking the Ravens upset the Steelers 27-26. They win by 1 point.
God forbid. Tony, Bob, what do you think?
I'm either going to extend the gap or Tony's going to default by me. I'm going to pick Pittsburgh at home. It's a heated rivalry, as you know, Chris, and they're very evenly matched if you look at the points for, points against. It's just the fact that I don't like Baltimore on the road. I'm just going to go Pittsburgh here, 27-20, a tough game.
All right. Well, fellas, I'm not picking against my boys, right? This is a heated rivalry. It's, the most hated rivalry for me. No one dislikes the Ravens more than I. So, I can't go against my boys in this one. Hopefully, they've recovered enough and we can find another guy for Ben Roethlisberger to go to besides Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. When Baltimore won earlier in November, they doubled and sometimes triple-teamed Antonio Brown and then stacked 8 guys in the box to stop Le'Veon Bell, sort of daring the Steelers, all right, find somebody else to throw to and beat us, and the Steelers couldn't do it. I think this time they will. Eli Rogers playing well. Hopefully Sammy Coates comes back from the broken fingers, and they end up getting it done. It's always a tough game. It's always very close. I like my boys to win this one 20-17. All right, Tony, our last game is the 8-6 Broncos going to the 10-4 Chiefs. The Chiefs are a 3-point home favorite. The over/under is 37.5. Tony, can the quarreling Broncos go into Kansas City and keep their playoff hopes alive?
No way. That's not going to happen. Kansas City's not going to lose 2 games at home, not in a row, not in Kansas City. Kansas City needs to win this game. Denver doesn't have any offense. We've seen that last week playing against my boys. So I'm going with Kansas City in a blowout, 37-7.
37-7 in the Tony Collins blowout game of the week. Bob, is Tony nuts or is he right?
Nah, it is a tough game because Denver is in a must-win. Like we said, Chris, at the opening, they have to win out. But then again, like Tony said, Kansas City at home after what happened last week. I got to go with Kansas City too, and Denver just puts the nail in the coffin in their season. How about Kansas City wins 27-17?
All right. And guys, teams that come apart in the locker room, and when they start pointing fingers at each other, those aren't the teams, right, that win big games or go very far. So that's what you got going on in Denver right now. So hey, look, the Chiefs aren't spectacular. I don't expect them to go far in the playoffs. Alex Smith isn't a quarterback that's going to win games for you against great defenses, which is what you get in the postseason. But I think it's enough to get it done this week. I think you guys are right. I think this is the final nail in the Broncos' coffin for 2016. I'm also taking the Chiefs. I think it's close, 21-20. Tony, before we let you go, remind our listeners about all the great things you are doing to help kids go to college.
TonyCollinsFoundation.com, TonyCollinsProjects.com. Go to the website, donate what you can. Help us give high school seniors money to go off to college.
Tony, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your family, my friend. We look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Absolutely. Same to you guys. Have a Merry Christmas.
All right, take care, Tony. That is former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins and our 5-star picks of the week. We've got our next guest, Victor Green, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Victor on the other side of this station identification.
Hi, this is former Rams QB Jim Everett, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, a.k.a. TNT, and it's explosive in here with my buddies, the hosts, Chris-Mascaro and bob-lazzari, and we're listening to all this on the Armed Forces Radio Network. So take it away, Ben.
And now back with us and making his third appearance on the Kyvan Foods guest line is former Jets defensive back Victor Green. Let me give you some more background on Victor. He's from Americus, Georgia, which is in the southwest part of the state. And Americus, if it rings a bell to you, right, to our regular listeners, because you'll hear it from TNT alumni like our Rams Pro Bowl guard Kent Hill has been on the show several times. Former head coach Dan Reeves as well is from Americus, Georgia. He's been on the show several times. As Jets offensive coordinator Chan Gailey, he too is from Americus, Georgia, and there's several others as well. It's an amazing amount of football talent that has come out of that town in southwest Georgia. Victor started his college football career at Copiah Lynch Community College, where he was twice named to the Gridiron All-American team. From there, he went on to attend the University of Akron, where he earned 2 degrees, one in criminal justice, the other in political science. He was an undrafted free agent signed by the New York Jets in 1993, and he played safety in the NFL from 93 to 2003 with the Jets, Patriots, and Saints. He led the NFL in tackles in back-to-back seasons in 1995 and 96, and in fact, in 96, he set a Jets team record with 20 tackles in a game against the Buffalo Bills. Over the course of his playing career, he had 961 total tackles, 25 interceptions, recovered 17 fumbles, forced 9 of them, had 7 sacks, and he scored 3 touchdowns. In 2003, he was named to the Jets' all-time 4-decade team, covering the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and he would go on to be named the best strong safety in Jets history. And we are honored that he is back again with us tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Victor, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Victor.
What's going on, guys? A nice introduction.
and oh, by the way, happy belated birthday, my friend. 2 weeks ago tonight.
Yeah, man. Turning 30 is a big thing, man. So, I had to celebrate my big 30th birthday party,
There you go.
Love it.
So, Victor, I wanted to start off our time with you tonight by getting your thoughts first on your alma mater, the Akron Zips. Last year, they go 8-5, went on to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl and beat Utah State. This year they went 5-7, which is how they finished 3 of the last 4 seasons under head coach Terry Bowden. Curious to get your thoughts. How do you feel about where the program is at right now?
It's looking kind of dismal right now, man. Like you said, 5-7 season. I think we gave up a average of high 20s. So I don't know what direction we're heading in right now, guys. Terry, I think, is a great coach. The coaching staff, I'm not so keen on. But we got to get some recruits in there, and we're going to continue to do the same thing there.
And Victor, things haven't gone as planned with the Jets either so far this season. They were a win away last year from getting into the playoffs, 4-10 so far this year, and even their defense, which I thought was going to be pretty strong this year, has sort of fallen off. What do you think the issues are right now up with the Jets?
It's a combination of things, guys. I mean, like you said, the defense, I think, with the offensive line, I think we have like 9 different combinations there. Quarterback situations, on the outside, and, Decker being hurt. I mean, I think you can go down the roster, man, or go offset defense, special teams, and find some issues going on. So, I don't see it getting any better the last couple of games, but hopefully we can find a way to really show some discipline over the next couple of games and show that we really got some fight in the football team. But it's not the Jets that we look forward to going into the season. And we had a lot of hope from last year, as you mentioned, but right now I don't see it.
And Victor, they've got 2 young quarterbacks in Bryce Petty, who started the last few games, and they drafted Christian Hackenberg in the second round this year. Do you think they're going to go all in on one of those guys being the starter next year? Do you think they're going to try to take a run at a free agent quarterback and bring that person in and let one of these 2 guys continue to develop watching from the sidelines?
I think it depends on how Bryce finished up the last couple of games. I mean, he showed a lot of fight in the San Francisco game. He played well early in the game against Miami. But if he don't finish up well, I mean, I think they got to bring somebody in. I mean, I just don't think that you can go into the season comfortably next year feeling that you got a quarterback that you can win with. So I think they have to go out and get somebody. I just don't see that they got it on the roster right now. I really don't. So you gotta go find that quarterback, at least for the time being, until these guys develop into something that we can feel comfortable with.
Bob, questions for Victor?
Victor, Merry Christmas. It's always an honor having you on the show, sir. And when I look back on your career, Victor, 93 when you came in the league, I think people forget how good a defense the Jets had at the time. Guys like Mo Lewis and Ronnie Lott and, my goodness, Lagerman. I can go on and on. There was a lot of talent on that team. And I was just wondering, Victor, if any of the guys that I mentioned, or maybe perhaps some guys on the offensive side, facilitated your entrance into the NFL as far as taking you under their wing and kind of making you more comfortable as a rookie.
Well, Ron, you mentioned Ronnie Lott. Ronnie was a big inspiration to me and my progress and the maturity into the National Football League. I used to watch Ronnie, practice or after practice, working the tackling dummies. He used to go in and, work, at lunch in the gym. So he took me into lunch, him and Brian Washington. So we used to go in the gym at lunchtime and get a nice little workout in, man. So I started following those guys around and start following them up in the film room and staying out to practice with them and just learning as much as I can. So Ronnie was very inspirational in my growth in the National Football League, and I learned a lot from that guy.
Victor, you brought up a good point as far as tackling dummies and just form tackling in general. And this question came to me a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to ask a guy like you. I was watching the Army-Navy game. Now, we're not talking an incredible brand of football, but these guys are very skilled and as you know, very disciplined. And they had mentioned at one point a guy that made a great tackle. It was an incredibly designated form tackle. It's just tremendous. And more we watch the NFL week to week, Victor, and we see it's such a collision sport. And guys, it seems like the form and the discipline has gone away from the game in favor of just hitting guys in order to knock them off their feet. Do you see that when you're watching the game?
I mean, I definitely think the tackling or the lack of have fallen off from the days when I played. I mean, I think that has to do with the way the rules have changed. I think the lack of time spent during training camp or during the season on tackling, I think have changed. So, guys, I don't think that they're, they put enough time in it to be great tacklers. And you see that from day in and day out, and, with the missed tackling and, guys just throwing their bodies, out there. And, it got to be better. And I think the only way they do that is, practicing after practice on those dummies and trying to become a better and making an art about it.
Victor, over your first 4 years, in the league with the Jets, you went through, Bruce Kozlitz last year as head coach. He went then to Pete Carroll's one season with the Jets and the 2-year Richie Kotite era. As a player, particularly a young player, what was it like having to go through, that level of instability, changing coaches almost every year?
I mean, I think the big thing, guys, is just the system changes. You get comfortable, and I think it takes at least a couple of years for a player to get comfortable in a system. And if you got coaching changing every other year, it's very tough for that player to really get a grasp of what he needs to do in that system, where he can kind of freelance, or you really don't have to think about what coverage is, the checks that you got to make. I think that's the biggest thing when you change coaches like that. If Petty changes, Shane Gailey, they bring in a whole new offensive system when he's so comfortable in this system, and now you go to the West Coast system. I think that can be, a detriment for a young guy that have been in this system for a couple of years. So, so that's the big change to me when you start changing coaches. You change system, and just to getting comfortable, the comfortability of that system, I think is the biggest thing.
And Victor, for all of us who will never know what it feels like, to get a pick six, you got your first one in a game at New England off our friend Drew Bledsoe. What's it like when the ball is in the air and you realize, I'm going to get this, and now, and then once you get it, you're going to take it to the house? What's that feel like?
That's a nervous feeling with me. When I first had mine, it was like the ball is in the air forever. It's like come down like a balloon. You're waiting for a balloon to just fall into your hands, right? So, but it's to get that first pick, especially off a quarterback like Drew Bledsoe, is it's a special time in the National Football League, like scoring your first touchdown. So, it's gratifying, especially when you study the team and a route or they were about to run from a formation they lined up in, and you was right on that. It's a gratifying feeling that all the work that you put in and the time you spent watching film, it come to fruition in terms of, wow, okay, I saw that. And it feels good, man. It really does.
In 2002, you left the Jets for the Patriots, and you had one interception that season, a 90-yard pick six against the Jets. How sweet was that for you?
Priceless. I started to call MasterCard and put it on that Priceless commercial, right? And I already got the word, and it's like leaving your team you've been with for 9 years, going to the rival, coming back, and pick six. Priceless, right? So it was, that was a nervous game for me. It was the second game of the season, and coming back, not really knowing how the fans would react, to me, from going to a rival team, and but the warm reception I got, when I entered the stadium was just unbelievable. And getting a pick six off a good friend of mine, Vinny Testaverde, and that goes back to, studying film and knowing the team, knowing that system. I knew they was going to run that route with Richie Anderson. They just run that little F angle, we call it. And, it was a gratifying feeling. And, we won the game. And I don't know if you saw the picture of Herm Edwards on the sideline and that face he had. And then Steve Yarnell was the security guy right behind Herm, like he wanted to just come take my head off. That was another priceless moment right there, man. So it was like Herm, like he had how you hold your mouth like to the side, like, okay, here, like it had to be that guy, right? Really, Victor? So it was a good time, man. I hate to leave the Jets, obviously, but obviously, that's the National Football League. But that pick, ranked high up there for me.
Victor, you have a wonderful foundation working with kids here in Atlanta. Talk about the work that you're doing, plus the promotion you have going on right now to help raise money.
Well, absolutely, man. The foundation, man, we just actually sent 23 kids from Atlanta Metro Boys and Girls Club and also the Salvation Army to the Falcons game this Sunday against the 49ers. So we put 23 kids up, and, that's what the foundation is about, man. We want to continue to create opportunities, for underprivileged kids. And the more that we can do that and the more support that we can get from your listeners and fans and friends of mine, the more I can do that. The Victor Green Foundation, we want to create opportunities. So we give monies to charities like that so they can help kids and, get them off the streets and things like that. But like I said, I like to go farther. We take kids to the Hawks game. We put them there last year. Take them to the Falcons game. We take them to the World Trade Center. I just spoke to the commissioner. We'll be honoring some kids in New York to take them to the league office and show them around the office, things like that. So things like that is what I want to do to kids, because you can open up their minds and their hearts and their, you can expand what their thinking is. And then hey, I can do that. I can be that. But if you keep them in a little hole and in this darkness, then they can't see it, right? So, but you bring them out into the light, they start to think, they start to dream, and that's where you get positive, kids that, in our society that can do some good things. So that's what we try to do. So guys, go to the Victor Green Foundation and bid on this Brendan Marshall football and helmet authentic. But it's not about that, though. It's just about helping, and if we can help one killing somebody from hurting someone, that's what it's all about. It's kindness and love.
There you go. That's great stuff, Victor. Remind our listeners how they can follow you, Victor, both online and over social media as well.
So you can follow me on Victor Green 21, on Twitter, and I always put, you put daily messages up there and trying to be inspiring to the people that follow me. Victor Green on Facebook. And, my foundation is, like I said, VictorGreen20, VictorGreenFoundation.org. I also own my own supplement companies. You can follow that at VictorGreen21.com. So, so I'm just trying to do some good things, man. But the big thing for me is the kids. And, the more kids that I can try to help, that's what it's all about for me. That's my passion. That's my love. And, I hope that you listeners out there go to the foundation, Victor Green Foundation, and really, help some kids to, be better in our society.
That's great stuff, Victor. Thank you for the job that you're doing. Thank you for coming back and being a part of the show again tonight. It's always a privilege for Bob and I to get to spend some time with you. We hope you'll come back and join us again real soon, my friend.
Well, absolutely, man. I appreciate you guys. Help and retweeting and things like that on social media, man. So you guys keep doing what y'all are doing with the armed services and, people out there. They need, people like you to spread the word. So thank you guys very much as well.
Appreciate that very much, Victor. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your family, my friend. We look forward to catching up with you again real soon.
Same as you guys, man. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Take care. You too,
Thanks, Victor. That is former Jets defensive back Victor Green. Not only a great career, Bob, but a great guy, too.
The Victor Green Foundation, Chris, we've really plugged it on the TV up here. We've on this show, we've done it. He's been in our spotlight on the positive, major in a major way into kids and the underprivileged. And, again, hands-on and just as good a guy off the gridiron as he was a player. It's just an honor to speak with him every time, and he's always welcomed, Chris. And we continue to love talking to guys that do the type of things he does.
Yeah, no question about that. Kudos to Victor Green. Like I say, not only a great player, but also a top shelf, like you like to say, Bob, top shelf individual. Can't thank him enough for being a part of the show and the great work that he is doing for kids here in the Atlanta area. All right, coming up in over the next 45 minutes, in the next, in the second hour of the show, we're going to be joined by Paul Alexander and Gene Lang. And before Paul joins us, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Podbean who have been so very good to us, featuring Thursday Night Tailgate and our golf show Next on the Tee on their site as well. If you're listening to the show as a podcast, we hope you're doing it via the Podbean podcast app, and on their app you can get instant updates when we publish new episodes. Their app and site are free to use, and they've got great features to let you easily discover, listen, and even publish a podcast of your very own. And whether you use an Android or an iPhone, Podbean is the app for your podcasting needs. You can get the app by going to Google Play or the Apple App Store as well. So you can enjoy, podcasts from all kinds of genres, right? Including, like we say, Thursday Night Tailgate and Next on the Tee. And also, don't forget, folks, our friends over at the Gridiron Greats organization this holiday season. Please help support a wonderful cause that's taking care of the guys who literally left so much of themselves out on the field. Remember, folks, they take care of the guys that played back when they still had to get off-season jobs to support themselves and their families. It's organizations like this one that was started by Mike Ditka, the Gridiron Greats, who are there trying to help the guys that we all grew up watching and reading about. So please go to gridirongreats.org to see what you can do and how you can get involved. All right, Paul Alexander is set to join us. He'll do so on the other side of this station identification.
This is Reggie Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengals and Atlanta Falcons tight end, and you're listening to TNT, Thursday Night Tailgate. Brace yourself for the explosion.
And now back with us and making his 12th appearance with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is a member of our 2016 Hall of Fame class, Mr. Paul Alexander. And Paul, as you know, is one of the best sportscasters and anchors and TV radio guys anywhere in the country. He can be heard doing the pre- and post-game shows for the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Penguins as well up there on Root Sports Pittsburgh. He also has covered the Steelers as well. He's been a true blessing to us and, for the show over the last couple of years, sharing his stories and insights with us. He's always so much fun when we get to spend some time with him here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Blessed to have him as a member of our Hall of Fame, as I mentioned, and back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Merry Christmas, Paul. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hi, Paul. Oh, Merry Christmas, guys. How's everybody doing?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Good.
So, Paul, for Pittsburgh sports fans, right, there have been some iconic figures over the years up there in Pittsburgh doing broadcasting. Guys, come to mind like Myron Cope, Lanny Fratteri, who joined us just a couple of weeks ago here on the show, Bill Hillgrove, who has been on with us several times, Dick Grote, right, who went from being a hero in the 1960s for the Pirates to broadcasting Pitt basketball. I was curious, Paul, for your time up there, did you ever get a chance to sit down and talk to any of those guys, about broadcasting or some of the things that, that they've been able to witness and be a part of through their broadcasting careers?
No, actually, Lanny is teaching now at Waynesburg University.
Right.
A broadcasting class. I've been lucky enough to be a guest speaker at some of his classes. So I stay in touch with Lanny. I see Billy quite a bit. He's one of my all-time favorite human beings, not just as a broadcaster, but just as a person. I mean, Billy's just phenomenal. He is going strong after all these years. What a dream job that he has. The voice of the Pitt Panthers, football and basketball, and, of course, the play-by-play voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he just has one of those voices, guys. When you hear it, you're just so comfortable, and you know that there's going to be a great story unfolding because Billy's telling it, and that just makes it so special. One name that you left out that's one of my all-time favorites is Stan Savran, who is, to me, the godfather of sports talk in Pittsburgh. I'm lucky enough to share a little cubicle with him at Root Sports, and just the opportunity to talk with him about how we approach things and things that are important to us. That is absolutely priceless. As Victor Green talked about, it's not quite like a 90-yard pick six for a touchdown against your former team, but when you get to hang out with and talk to and actually be a colleague with someone that you grew up watching and admiring and idolizing, that to me is about as good as it gets. So, yeah, I've immersed myself in the stories. My favorite guy to sit and talk to, God bless him, not with us anymore, but the legendary Beano Cook was just such a fascinating guy and such an interesting guy. Pittsburgh has been blessed. I mean, even going back, I haven't had many opportunities to speak with him. I've met him on occasion. But Dick Stockton actually started at KDK TV in Pittsburgh, the legendary voice of the NFL, such iconic broadcaster through all these years. So, yeah, we've had some great, and we still do have. The thing that's difficult, here in Pittsburgh, if you want to break into this market, no one ever leaves. People just keep doing their thing. Billy's been the voice of Pitt now for 35 years. You think about who's going to be next. Well, there's not going to be a next. Billy's just going to do it forever. So it's crazy. And, the late, great Jack Fleming was the predecessor to Billy as the voice of the Steelers on the radio. And now Billy's such a, just an important figure, as a Steeler broadcaster. So it's a whole lot of fun. And Greg Brown has quietly come, I think, into his at least 22nd or 23rd year as the voice of the Pirates. He's another great one that's just so enthusiastic and so much fun. We've been blessed here in Pittsburgh to have great voices, great personalities, great characters, and I guess the best part of it all is we've had some great teams too.
And Paul, it's Ravens week this week in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Sunday's game is really essentially for the division title, and the loser really could be out of the playoffs entirely. The Steelers kind of go into this game, kind of banged up especially on the defensive line. Stephon Tuitt, a little banged up now. Ladarius Green is likely out, and who knows when he'll be able to play again. Curious to get your thoughts. What do you expect to see Sunday afternoon in this game?
Well, I expect to see football the way I think the NFL is intended to play. Hard-nosed, tough, smash-mouth football. I'm not sure exactly which game it was, but King, the great Sports Illustrated Monday morning author, after one of the Steelers-Ravens games, just said, can't we just have this every week? It just be Steelers-Ravens each and every week because it's so good. But, just looking back over the series right now, the Ravens have won 4 straight. They've been dominant over the Steelers in this, last little sample. But the last time that Ben Roethlisberger, Mr. Bell, and Mr. Brown were all available at home, Ben threw for 340 yards and 6 touchdowns. So one thing the Ravens had to deal with is Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Ben Roethlisberger all at the same time. Granted, you pointed out some of the things. You get this late in the football season, injuries are going to be a big part of it. And, you look back at Super Bowl champions or AFC or NFC champions, one thing that they usually talk about is how they were lucky to avoid the injury bug and how their key players stayed healthy. The Steelers just simply have not been able to do that. I really thought when Cam Hayward went down, they were in some trouble. Then you add Tuitt to that mix. I mean, that's crazy that they're playing such good defense. They were not a good defensive team the first time they played the Ravens, and the Ravens ran right through them. It was really not a pretty sight. People that grow up here in Pittsburgh, defense is kind of a big deal. That started with Lambert in the 70s and Ham and those guys. When they see their team shredded, like Baltimore shredded them in the first meeting between these two, it doesn't sit well here. But this defense, surprisingly, after Cam Hayward went down, has been downright stingy. Keith Butler, the new defensive coordinator, deserves a ton of credit. There's a lot of guys that are kind of growing up before our very eyes. Some of these young players are starting to actually play extremely well defensively. So I just don't know, how much more they can withstand. If you don't control that line of scrimmage on the defensive side, it could be a really bad day. But it's Ravens week. It's going to be so much fun. Hopefully you have a wonderful Christmas morning. You have a nice Christmas meal, and you settle in front of the TV, or if you want to get bold and get down there to Heinz Field, what a great way to cap off your Christmas day, Steelers-Ravens. It should be a great one.
That's right. And, Paul, the Ravens essentially doubled and sometimes even looked like triple-teamed Antonio Brown last time, and then they stuck 8 guys in the box to bottle up Le'Veon Bell. So with no Ladarius Green for Ben to go to, the pressure's got to be on, right? Like Eli Rogers and Jesse James and Kobe Hamilton really to step up and make plays, is it not?
Yeah, it really is. And unfortunately today at practice, Sammy Coates came up a little lame, left with a hamstring issue. No idea, how that's going to translate by the time we get to game day on Sunday. But yeah, Jesse James, I thought started to emerge. And obviously, Ladarius Green, it's just another level. as far as being a receiving tight end. He had really started to emerge, had one real big game, and that seam is always a big part of any NFL offense, and a big tight end. Look what New England faces when they lose Gronk. I mean, there's something about that tight end position that's crucial to an offense. And if the Steelers are going to score points, someone other than Antonio Brown is going to have to catch the football and make plays. Eli Rogers is a guy that's shown, the stage isn't too big for him. If he gets opportunity, he's a guy that can make plays. It's a shame, that Sammy Coates might not be available. We'll have to see how that goes. But, yeah, Jesse James is going to have to make plays. Eli Rogers and Antonio Brown's still going to have to, despite all the attention, he's going to have to make plays as well.
Bob, questions for Paul?
And happy holidays, Paul. It's great to speak with you again. And just to get off football for a minute and talk about that other team in Pittsburgh right now, the Penguins, Paul, because they are so impressive. Reading about Crosby and leading the league in scoring and, goals for anyway, and the team scoring 3.5 goals a game, Paul, the 2-goalie system, Malkin's playing great. Things are going well with that team right now.
Except not at the actual present moment. Prior to the 7-1 deficit they're facing right now in Columbus, yeah, it has been pretty special. But one thing that's very interesting in that Metropolitan Division right now are indeed John Tortorella's, Columbus Blue Jackets on the verge of winning game 11 in a row. They are just putting it to the Penguins right now, 7-1. But it's one of 82. It's not anything that I think should be cause for alarm. And I think more people, the NHL has to worry more about the Penguins than the Penguins worrying about anyone else right now. They're playing right now without Chris Letang, without Trevor Daley, the two best puck-moving defensemen. And the one thing we've seen, when Sid's been hurt, and unfortunately it's been way too often, and when Gino's been, unavailable, the Penguins have found a way to still be extremely formidable. The one guy that I think they can ill afford to lose is the guy they're playing without right now, and that's Chris Letang. He kills penalties. He quarterbacks your power play. He simply gets the puck out of his own end with relative ease at the drop of a hat. And Trevor Daley is, in the same ilk. So without those two guys, they've still been pretty impressive. The good news is those guys should be back relatively soon. It's not any kind of season-ending type of situation. But, Bob, to your point, and happy holidays to you, the Penguins are going to be around. They're going to be making a lot of noise, March, April, May, and hopefully even June.
Back to the Steelers, Paul, and Chris and I discussed this a couple weeks ago about the fact that Le'Veon Bell, if you're going to put a guy like Brady into the MVP talk, a guy like Bell, who also missed a few games, I try to picture Pittsburgh, that team without Bell this year. Despite any heroics by Roethlisberger, Paul, if Bell's not around, they don't have anything close to 9 wins, and this guy's doing it. Running the ball and catching the ball. How about him as far as a name in the MVP race?
I think he has to be high on that list. When you look at what he brings, and you mentioned it, when you start looking at the statistics, yards from scrimmage as opposed to just either rushing or receiving, he's an absolute beast. I mean, he set some all-time Steeler records a couple weeks ago just by being unstoppable, basically. And I remember him at Michigan State and being very impressed. And what a lot of people may not realize, his senior year at Michigan State, he was playing at 245 pounds. He was a big back. Speed has never been his number one asset. Tremendous quickness and strength and all the agility that he possesses and the great hands, yes, all of that. But now he's playing at 225. And he is absolutely a physical specimen. There's probably not a better conditioned athlete in the NFL beside of Antonio Brown. So that combination, and he redefines slow to the hole, quick through it. He is the most patient back I've ever seen in the NFL. Yeah. I have never seen a guy get to the hole, wait, and then explode as soon as there's a crease or a seam. And he makes his own lineman a little crazy sometimes. They're wondering, what the heck are you doing? Would you please get through this little hole that I've created? But he waits for something even better or maybe a different direction altogether. And his acceleration is amazing. He's not going to go 90 to 100 yards. He's not Tony Dorsett. He doesn't really have that breakaway speed, but you know what? That's okay, because he turns 2 into 6, 6 into 20. He turns -2 into 4. His ability to always get yards, always make a positive play, is nothing short of phenomenal, in my opinion. He really is one of the most exciting backs this side of Barry Sanders that I've ever seen play the game.
Paul, one more before we let you go. And is it just me, or does Mike Tomlin seem to be a guy who struggles with math and numbers? Because when they went for 2 last Sunday against Cincinnati, and went up 24-20, and they tried to make it 26-20, it just didn't make sense to me. If you kick the extra point and you go up 25-20, if Cincinnati happens to score a touchdown, unless they were to go for 2 and convert, but you're only trailing by 2, and a field goal wins the game for you instead of just, tying it. And it seems like sometimes he's outsmarting himself because he's already, like I say, in my mind, not very good at managing the clock. So it just seems like anything with numbers kind of throws him. Am I crazy?
No, you are echoing the sentiment of many of us here in Pittsburgh. That just kind of, shake our heads and wonder if you're not good at it, why isn't someone else in your headset telling you, no, Mike, not a good idea to go for 2, or no, Mike, we need to use this timeout. The other day when they settled for 3, and again, the exact situation escapes me, but they went to the half and set up for a field goal. And they ended up spiking the ball and had a timeout. And, his explanation on Tuesday was that he didn't want to give Cincinnati, if they weren't able to score, he didn't want to give Cincinnati any time on the clock. And this was like the final minute and a half.
Right.
Some very strange mathematical situations with Mike Tomlin, no question.
Paul, before we let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with all the great things that you're doing, follow you on whether it's online or over social media as well.
P. Alexander 44 on Twitter. I'm not as active as I should be right now. I need to get back after it a little bit. And just check us out, Root Sports tomorrow, pre and post game. The Devils on the road. No, it's actually Devils at home tomorrow. They're on the road tonight. So I'll have Penguins pre and post game tomorrow, and just look forward to all the opportunity. This is a big weekend for Pittsburgh sports, and obviously Steelers-Ravens is huge. I'm sure I'll have some interesting tweets during the game on Sunday.
There you go. Paul, always a thrill and a privilege for Bob and I to have you as part of the show. We can't thank you enough for joining us again tonight and for being a member of our 2016 Hall of Fame class as well. You're a class act and a great guy, and we can't thank you enough for being a part of the show.
Well, Christian Bob, that's a true honor. It was very humbling and very cool. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to both of you guys. And just keep doing this wonderful, positive approach. We live in a pretty strange time right now where there's just such a tendency to go negative, to try to stir up something, to stir the pot, instead of just telling the great stories that you do each and every week. So please keep up the great positivity and have a wonderful Christmas and a spectacular 2017.
I appreciate that very much, Paul. Same to you and your family, my friend. We look forward to catching up with you again real soon, Paul. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. God bless. Take care.
You too.
Take care, Paul.
That is Paul Alexander again from Root Sports Pittsburgh, doing the pre- and post-game shows for the Pirates and the Penguins, covering the Steelers as well. Great guy, member of our Hall of Fame, a guy we're very much indebted to, and we can't thank him enough for all the wonderful things that he has meant to both Bob and I, and to the show as well. Right, Bob?
Oh, he's terrific. Again, and you just can't talk football with him. We didn't even touch the Pirates and everything, but every time we have Paul on, it's just revisiting a lot of the older days in Pittsburgh, and I know he's special to you, Chris, with the Pittsburgh background, and you could talk all night with him. We could do 2 hours with Paul Alexander, but class act. We probably overused that term, but he is the epitome of that, and that's why he's in our Hall of Fame.
That's exactly right. All right, before we get to our next guest, Gene Lang, I want to give a shout-out to our good friend Renee Schell over at Career Engagement Institute. And, folks, if you're upside down in your career, and what do we mean by that? And you're ready to move on is what we mean by that. And please go to careerengagement.institute to see how Renee can help you. You've heard some of our guest guys like Toy Cook, speaking of TNT Hall of Famers, Toy Cook, singing Renee's praises. And, if you work with her for 2 minutes, you're going to understand exactly why Toy has done that and why we do that every single week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Folks, we all are searching for what? Someone that we can trust and actually has our best interest at heart. And you know how hard it is to find somebody like that. Well, no one fits that bill any better than Renee Shull does. She is a very wonderfully talented lady, the kind of person that you want to work with and have working for you. She has done some great things from some of our guests who have been in transition from being pro athletes and now getting into the job market. Folks, I'm telling you, Renee is just the very best. There isn't a better way to describe her than that. If you're an athlete or anybody in the job market and you're ready to move on and do something better, right? Do yourself a favor and reach out to Renee. You're going to be so very glad that you did. Go to careerengagement.institute online. Give her a follow on Twitter @IntegratedPlay. All right, now back with us and making his fourth appearance on the Kyvan Foods guest line is former Broncos and Falcons running back Gene Lang. Let me remind you about Gene's background. He's from Pass Christian, Mississippi, played his college ball at LSU. He was an 11th round draft pick in 1984 by the Denver Broncos, and he played in the NFL from 84 to 1990 with the Broncos and the Falcons. He was a member of the Broncos' back-to-back AFC championship teams in 1986 and 87, and we are very excited that he is back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Gene, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Chris and Bob, how are you guys?
Oh, fantastic. Gene, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Can't complain.
Good.
So, Gene, wanted to get your thoughts. Your Broncos were in the news a bunch this week, right, based on some frustrations that boiled over between the offense and the defense after Sunday's game against the Patriots. Is that a situation that is unheard of, or does it really happen more than we're aware of?
Well, when one side of the ball is not pulling its weight, it weighs on the other side. So, those guys get angry. And I don't blame them. So the offense is not pulling its weight. Not at all. Actually, they've been terrible.
So, Gene, should the defense be upset with the offense over something like that, or should their frustration be with the organization? Like maybe Elway for not bringing in a better veteran quarterback than Mark Sanchez over the offseason, or doing more to keep the offensive line and some of the guys together from last year's Super Bowl team. Should they be mad at Elway, or is it right to be upset with the offense?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the money these guys make, they should be happy all the time. I don't care if it's going bad. They should be happy all the time. It's a thing that they didn't. I don't think they thought out the quarterback situation before the season, and now they're stuck. So it is what it is. They got to play it out, and you do the best you can. I know you couldn't expect the same results last year, even though Peyton Manning didn't play well last year. Mm-hmm. But he's still Peyton Manning, and he demands respect. I don't think you have to respect the guys they have back there now.
And Gene, we've seen a bigger meltdown with respect to the season with the Carolina Panthers than we have even with the Broncos. But, Gene, you know how hard it is to climb the mountain in back-to-back years. Talk about the difficulty associated with trying, to get back to the Super Bowl a second year.
Well, back when we played, we pretty much knew who was going to be on the team. You have some changes here and there. Now you don't know, because of the change of free agency. Things have changed the dynamics of the game. So, your chemistry changes every year, and so you never really know. And the disappointment of losing the Super Bowl, it's something that really sticks with you. Some teams are able to come back, other teams disappear, and I think Carolina has disappeared. It's just it's a difficult thing. It's a feeling. It's an emptiness that it's hard to get over. And, you say, oh, yeah, we just put in the background and we put in the past. But it's really hard to do. And when they got spanked the way they did, and I was a part of some of that, getting spanked like that, it makes for a long off season. And obviously they weren't prepared to play this year.
Bob, questions for Gene?
Hey, Gene, great to speak with you again. And I want to ask you
Bob.
about your. Yeah, it's great to speak with you always. And as I talked to a few of the other guests, Gene, when you got into the league, I'm always interested in teammates and what they do for rookies. Wondering when that team that you got into the league with, Elway, Winder, Will, have very talented guys. Is there any of those guys, or even defensive guys, that really took you under their wing and eased your entrance into the league?
I'm not going to say that initially, because they treat you kind of bad when you walk in, because everybody's job is on the line. Even guys who are starters, their job is on the line. So they don't know you, you don't know them, you hear of them, and they don't know if you're going to take their job. So initially, guys are kind of standoffish, and they treat you pretty bad as a rookie. But as the season went on, Sammy Winder became one of my best friends. To this day, he's one of my best friends. And that whole rookie dynamic, as I became a veteran and guys were coming in, then I treated them like I was treated. Because you don't know, because every year your job is on the line. So there's somebody coming in to replace you. So it's hard to just say, I'm going to take this guy under my wing when you don't know if you're going to be there.
Mm-hmm. And also wanted to ask you about Coach Dan Reeves. Gene, spoke to him a few weeks ago. He had a lot of great things to say about all of you guys in the 80s who played in Denver, and even off the field, just seemed like and continues to be a class act. How did you like him as a coach? And, of course, I'm sure you're aware of just the kind of guy he is off the field.
Yeah, you know what? My time here in Denver, while Dan was a coach, he was a great coach. We were always prepared. He was always prepared for the games. And we didn't win the final game, but, while I was here, we got the 2 Super Bowls. And asked a lot of guys who've never got a chance to get there how hard that is to do. It's a very difficult thing to do and to go back to back. And I think Dan went to 3 while he was here. And, it's just a hard thing. He came in and turned the Bronco program around and turned them into a perennial winner and left that legacy here. And like I said, Dan's a great guy. He's a great coach. And it was a pleasure to play for him.
Gene, let's talk a little bit about your alma mater, LSU. And in the past, you've been outspoken about, your displeasure with the job that Les Miles was doing. LSU just took the offensive coordinator from Pitt, Matt Canada, which I'm a little disappointed about being from Pittsburgh. But give us your assessment of LSU's choice of promoting Ed Orgeron as from offensive coordinator to head coach and the direction LSU is heading in.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because I was chomping at the bit to say something. My only regret is that they didn't fire him after last season, because now we lost the whole season. We lost Fournette's senior season. It was a wasted season for us. And I like the direction Ed Orgeron, when he took over, he brought the former players back, in which we didn't feel welcome there before. I mean, there were some things they would do occasionally for the players, but Ed Orgeron has opened up the practices to former players. Now you get to participate in the Tiger Walk before the game, and he just welcomed us all back and trying to create that family atmosphere of the guys from the past to the present, because we owe the guys, we can bring something to the guys since we've been there that are there now, and I've been down that road, so I think he's made some good decisions. I think the defense is going to improve as guys that stay in that system. They'll be in that system for 2 years next season. That defense is going to improve, and we make our bread and butter is defense at LSU. Always has been. But I'm looking forward to having an open offense instead of the 3 plays up the middle and punt. I'm just looking forward to seeing what they're going to do next season. I'm very excited about my Tigers.
And, Gene, one of the other big topics around college football has been the direction of, star players sitting out bowl games to prepare for the NFL. Your thoughts on guys like Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey passing on the bowl games?
Well, you got to remember, these guys have been hurt all season. Fournette he's been hurt since the first game. And he only played like 5 to 6 games. So, and every time he played, he hurt his ankle. So I don't blame him for sitting out. I know McCaffrey was hurt at one time. I don't know. I don't follow too much there. But I don't have a problem with it because, face it, if you're not in the playoffs, what are you doing? You're just playing an extra game. And for the guys that need to be seen, yeah, you might need an extra game. But I think we know what Fournette can do. I know what he can do. I'm sure the NFL scouts know what he can do. And I think he's going to be a great pro because the guy with all those tools, I think he's a can't miss. And he's a good kid at that. So I don't think he would have just if there was more at stake, I think he would have played. I can't speak for McCaffrey. I don't know his situation. But I don't have a problem with it. And I think that the bowl or the playoff system, that I think they need to expand it to get more teams involved so that you don't have guys deciding not to play in bowl games.
And, Gene, one more before we let you go, and, talking about coaches that you've played for in the past, and you've talked about how hard Jerry Glanville rode you guys doing 2-a-day practices, but you shared what might have been the funniest comment that we've heard here on the 5+ years that we've been doing this show regarding what you might do if you happen to run into Jerry Glanville in the Denver airport. If you saw him today, what might that be like?
I might jump over the ledge, Bob. Chris, I'll jump over the ledge to get at him.
Talk about why.
That guy, I tell you what, we had 2-a-day, 7 days a week. 7 days a week, no break.
Wow.
And that guy did not deserve to coach that team. He was not a good coach. He didn't deserve to coach that team. And I'll tell him to his face if I ever see him again. Hopefully it never comes to that.
Gene, remind everyone what you're doing now.
I'm a mortgage broker here in Denver, a company called Empire Lending. And we have a crazy market here in Denver. So I'm busy. I've been very busy.
Gene, how can our listeners stay up to date with all the things that you're doing, whether it's online or over social media?
You catch me on LinkedIn. Just look up Gene Lang on LinkedIn. And Twitter, Gene at SEO Global at Twitter. And you can Google me anytime, and I'll pop up.
Gene, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. We always have such a great time when we get to spend some time with you. We hope you'll come back and do it again, share more of your stories and insights with us.
Absolutely.
Love having you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Gene. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and your family. We look forward to catching up with you again real soon.
Same to you guys. Have a good day.
Good night.
All right, take care. That is former Broncos and Falcons running back Gene Lang. Always one of my favorite stories, Bob. If I saw him, go Jerry Glanville, I have to jump over the ledge to get at him. Yeah, very funny. And but Gene was a great player and a very big part of the Broncos, success that they had back in the late '80s. Unfortunately, they didn't get over the hump and win the Super Bowl. We've talked about that many times with Coach Reeves as well. But Gene was certainly an integral part of getting them that far.
That's a great point, Chris. And I think I talked to Coach Reeves about him as far as him spelling guys like Will Height and Winder at the time. And people forget that Gene Lang was a very accomplished kick returner, Chris. 3 years in a row, he averaged 22, 23 yards a kickoff. I mean, he was a very, very all-around good player, never complained, a true team guy, and, of course, as you see, a guy that keeps it right at the vest. So always loved talking to Gene. Again, happy holidays to him and his family.
Absolutely. All right, when Bob and I come back, we'll be turning on the Thursday Night Tailgate Spotlight on the Positive. Hear which players are doing great things and their communities. And we'll do all of that. Then we'll wrap up the show on the other side of these words from our friends over at Coastal Orthopedics and Kyvan Foods.
Are you suffering from ongoing pain from athletic injuries in your knees, shoulders, or hips? Tired of living your life with an old injury that just won't go away? If you answered yes to either of these questions, we can help. Dr. Peter Candelora and his experienced staff of medical professionals will get you back on the road to recovery. Their state-of-the-art facility and new medical technology will ensure you'll be enjoying life again in no time. Since 1991, Dr. Candelora has been specializing in joint replacement, athletic injuries, and general orthopedics. Visit us on the web at athleteinjuries.com or call our office at 888-825-1150. That is 888-825-1150. We're proud sponsors of the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund.
This is Reggie Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengals and Atlanta Falcon tight end, and I'm the owner of Kyvan Foods. And if you enjoy delicious food, you're going to love my Kyvan products, which consist of our honey apple salsa, sweet barbecue sauce, and an array of seasonings. For store locations, online orders, and recipes, check out our website at www.kyvan82.com. That's Kyvan 82.com. One taste, and you'll appreciate the goodness.
Hey, welcome back. This is Todd Washington, two-time Super Bowl champ, offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens, and you are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my boys Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Go get them, guys.
And we're back here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and we're turning on our spotlight on the positive. Bob, who do you have for us this week?
Chris, I know this is a special time of the year for us, not only because it's late in the football season, it's exciting and everything, but we were just made aware of the new nominees for the NFL Man of the Year. And if you go to NFL.com/Man of the Year, you'll see that. And it's great, Chris, and it's a lot of guys we've already mentioned on this show and everything, but it's new blood, and we found out a lot more about other guys that are doing great things in the community, and it's a whole new crew this time. And I just said to myself, let me pick one of them, maybe one of the more popular players in the league right now, and that's Sean Lee from Dallas. As you know, Chris, kind of like your J.J. Watt, that nonstop motor on the football field. Well, this is a guy that gets it done off the field like few do. I mean, he's been around 6-7 years, Chris. Not until a year or two ago have we really, really seen how good a player he is. But off the field, Chris, every year he's been picked to they do a coaching at the Cowboys U high school football camp down in Texas. It's a character education event, a lot of at-risk kids. He does that every year. And I could go down the list of what this guy does. He does a lot with the Dream Builders Foundation. He gets a lot of technology, Chris, into the schools down there. He works a lot with the Boys and Girls Club, a lot of literacy stuff. I could go on, Chris. And there is a picture on the website of him addressing probably 20 kids. And you got to check this picture out. These kids are looking at him with their mouths open just in amazement. And obviously he commands a big presence, and he's a great speaker. But go to the website, check out the Man of the Year, and if this guy doesn't win, they're all, as we know, they're all very, very deserving. But this guy, it goes beyond the call. Sean Lee, my goodness, Chris, we have to give a shout-out to him tonight.
Very good. And, Bob, I'm going to put the spotlight on San Diego Chargers defensive tackle Corey Lugitt. And last Tuesday, Bob, Corey hosted an event called Shop with a Charger for 50 local underprivileged kids from the local Boys and Girls Clubs there in San Diego. He was joined by some of his teammates, safety Dexter McCoyle and linebacker Jatavis Brown. And they took kids out. They took them out to dinner. They played some games with them. They took them shopping as well. And, Corey, one of the things that he talked about, and, he's quoted in the article about, he says, the fact that these kids are going to be able to get a gift and get something, that they actually want today means the world to him. And for he goes on to say, for me to do this, it's just because I was a kid in their situation. I was sitting there in their shoes at one point in time in my life, coming from poverty and not having much, and not having many holidays, if you will. I just hate to see kids miss a holiday like Christmas. So that's a wonderful sentiment from him. Overall, he said he's just trying to be a role model, so that some of the kids that grow up and look at a guy like him, he went through a lot of the same things that they went through. So now that they can see a guy like him go on and be successful, and hopefully he's able to inspire them as well. Jatavis Brown said, once upon a time, for him as well, he didn't really have that many blessings in his life. He never had anybody for him to look up to and to be around, and unfortunately, he looks at his life situation and says, boy, for these kids to be able to take a walk around and go shopping and have the things that they provided that night, and just to be able to really to enjoy Christmas perhaps for the first time, meant a lot to him. So, kudos to Corey, Lugitt and his teammates for organizing an event like this, giving kids a Christmas experience that, many of them wouldn't have otherwise probably had the opportunity to have. And, on top of that, kudos to them for making a positive impact, in these kids' lives, Bob. Some really great stuff, this holiday season, guys being able to go out into their community, recognizing, some underprivileged kids and giving them a Christmas that I'm sure they'll never forget.
Well, Chris, at this time of the year, you make a good point. The holiday season, we do this show the entire year. We do this segment each and every week. But this time of the year, it seems to take on a little bigger meaning, because I see pictures of kids in hospitals. Is there anything more sad, Chris, than a kid in the hospital, young kid, maybe in a cancer center at this time of the year, and you see these players go in there, not because the team told them to, because you can't fake that kind of caring. A lot of these guys go in there and they come out with tears in their own eyes. So it's something very dear to us. And when these guys go beyond the call, and kudos to every one of these guys that is one of the finalists for the award. But it's just at this time of the year, Chris, it really gets to me that these guys, it's no longer about football once the Sunday's over, and it's so refreshing. And, again, goes under the radar screen because it doesn't sell, but we'll continue to plug it.
Yeah, no, and absolutely right, Bob. And it's interesting, that last point you make, it doesn't sell. I can't tell you how many times, Bob, that I've talked to, people in the industry and in the radio industry and TV industry, as we talk about, doing the spotlight on the positive, trying to keep, the show as positive as we can. And that's sort of the feedback I get. Positivity doesn't sell. And then Paul Alexander talked about this earlier in the show, and he's talked about it in previous times that he's joined us on the show. Right? People love dirty laundry. They don't, the positivity isn't what people are looking for. It doesn't get clicks. It doesn't get a lot of attention, if you will. That if you put out a negative headline, and we've seen it so much, this year, Bob, and with respect to the election too, right? You've heard stories lately. It's all about false news, right? People make up headlines, right, and they stick it out there as false news, and people read it because it's perhaps a headline because they supported this candidate and not that one, right? So you're always looking to knock down the other candidate. So that people put out false news. I saw a story on CNN. A guy intentionally goes out and writes false news, and he puts out there a false headline, and he writes a false couple of opening paragraphs. And and his rationalization was, well, people will realize it's so ridiculous that it couldn't possibly be true, even though it reads as if it were true. And and that's a disappointing thing, right? That is that really where we are in our society now, right? We shun the positive. We just want the negative. And if even if it's not true, and it gets us clicks, and we can sell advertising for it, then it's okay, right? And one of the things, and we've talked about this many times, one of the things we're most proud of, with respect to this show, is we're never going to be that, right? If that's what you want, then we're not the show for you. But we're always going to continue to tell you, here are some positive stories, right? Because at the end of the day, it's really about, the show is really about being uplifting. and maybe you've got a smile on your face. Maybe you're happier to know that there are guys out there doing great stuff. Maybe it changes your opinion or review of the players, that are the current players in the NFL and some of the alumni players too, right? Because they're out there doing great stuff. And maybe it makes you feel a little bit better that, everything in the world isn't bad. Every piece of news isn't poor. Every player out there isn't involved in drugs or domestic violence or whatever, some of the things that we hear about, right? It really is about, at the end of the day, being uplifting. And hopefully that's why, people continue to listen to this show. Maybe it is a differentiator for us. And like you've talked about many times, Bob, if that's not what mainstream radio wants, they want the negative stuff, and then I guess they're just not going to want our show.
It's a good point, Chris. And my pet peeve is people that are fake, and I don't deal with it well. And both of us have crossed paths with many of them, and we go in the other direction. And it's happened on the show. It's happened throughout my journalistic endeavors. It just doesn't work for me, Chris, if I have to go down a path that I'm not familiar with or goes against any moral compass. You just can't do it. And if that's where the business is headed, well, again, I think there's still a niche for great stuff, but I am always going to go out of my way to recognize guys that are doing the right thing in maybe a sport where guys don't always do the right thing. So, again, it's one of my favorite segments, and now it's at the holiday time and the new nominees for NFL Man of the Year. It's just a great time to just start it all over. We're going to have a great year in 2017.
There you go, Bob. All right, my friend, it is time for us to put a bow on this episode of Thursday Night Tailgate. Our thanks again to John Malecki, Tony Collins, Victor Green, Paul Alexander, and Gene Lang for joining us tonight. And Bob, always my best thrill is to get to spend my Thursday nights with you. Merry Christmas to you. I hope it's a wonderful Christmas for you, and I look forward to catching up, obviously, again with you. We'll do it again in the new year.
I hope it's a very relaxing one for you, Chris. You're first with your new wife. I wish the two of you the best. It's going to be very special, and I know that. So relax, enjoy, and keep me posted, buddy.
I absolutely will. As I alluded to, Bob and I will be taking next week off to sort of refresh ourselves and spend some time with our families for this Christmas and the New Year's holiday as well. So we want to wish everybody out there listening very Merry Christmas. Have a safe, healthy, and happy New Year. Thank you so much for a wonderful 2016, and thank you so much for being a part of Thursday Night Tailgate. To all of our listeners, to our Hall of Fame class of 2016, our Hall of Fame listeners out there as well, and everyone that tunes in and listens to the show, we can't thank you enough for doing so and making Thursday Night Tailgate a part of your weekly regiment. It means a great deal to us, and we appreciate you all very, very much. When we're back with you on January 5th, our guests are going to be former Eagles, Rams, and Chiefs head coach Dick Vermeil. Be great to catch back up with Coach. Former Giants fullback and NFL Alumni Association chairman of the board emeritus, Randy Minier, will be back with us. Former Packers defensive back and former Steelers defensive coordinator Tim Lewis will make his TNT debut with us, and we'll welcome back former Cardinals Pro Bowl defensive back Kwame Lassiter as well. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. We hope you'll be back in starting your new year with us here on Thursday Night Tailgate. I want to remind everyone how you can follow us on social media. Please visit us on Facebook. Check out the Thursday Night Tailgate Facebook page. Give us a like. That's very important to us. Both Bob and I have our own Facebook pages as well. You can find us on Twitter. I am at CT-mascaro. Bob is at Bob_Lazzari, and the show is at TNT Podcast. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free, folks, by going to our great friends over at Podbean, their great podcasting site. You can find us on there. They've been great to us. They've recommended the show. We've been on their banner ads. We're on their mobile app for the last month or so at this point. Can't thank them enough for doing all of that and their great support of the show. You can also stream us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Audio Boom, Player.fm, SoundCloud. We are all over the net, so please check us out. And if you've got a favorite app that you like to stream stuff on and we're not on it, please let us know. We'll make sure we get on there for you as well. Bob, take us home, my friend.
Thanks, Chris. We'll talk in a couple weeks. And again, also thanks to our announcer, Joe LaGenusa, for the great job he does with our weekly intro and ads, and to James Brocato and all the guys from Painted Faces for our upcoming outro music. On behalf of myself and Chris, we thank everyone tonight for listening. We appreciate you the most. Until next week or the week after, good night, Kevin. We miss you.